Hey everyone, we're back today with a new video in this Malvi's cooking show. I am Malvi's Cooking, the official replacement for Maite. May she rest in peace. No, I'm kidding. And today we're going to make a grandmother-style apple cake in our air fryer. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get started with the recipe. If, of course, you are new to the Malvi's Cooking channel, feel free to subscribe by clicking the subscribe button at the bottom right of my video and activate the bell to be notified as soon as I post a recipe. I post a lot, so you'll have plenty of recipe ideas to make in your air fryer. To begin, you take a saucepan, preferably with a thick bottom, and pour in 60 grams of powdered sugar. We are going to make our caramel. Go to the gas stove, just put your saucepan with the sugar on and melt it gently until it turns into caramel. You must not stir your sugar or caramel with a spatula, otherwise it may crystallize. And we want it to be a nice runny caramel, so ultimately you just have to wait. However, you can shake the pan with your hands like this to make the caramel. But above all, do not stir it to prevent it from crystallizing. That's my little trick. I don't know if you know this trick, but I'm giving it to you because a lot of people mess up their caramel. But it's very, very simple to do. You just have to wait. Don't use too high a gas setting, otherwise it will brown too quickly. We want a fairly light caramel color for this apple cake. As you can see, the caramel is, well, starting to appear. The sugar is melting properly. So here, with my hand, you see, I'm shaking my saucepan a little. I don't stir, but I agitate to ensure that the sugar is completely dissolved. And once the sugar is completely dissolved, I will pour my caramel directly into the bottom of my cake tin. I poured my caramel into the bottom of the mold. Well, the only slight problem is that it hardens quite quickly, but it's not a big deal, it doesn't matter. Make sure to use a movement like this when you pour your caramel to thoroughly coat the entire base of your mold. I greased and floured the mold beforehand. And by the way, as for the diameter, I think it's 22 centimeters from memory. So I washed and sliced some apples and I'm going to arrange them nicely on top of the caramel. You are trying to make a pretty rosette. You cut them very thin, the slices. So I took 2 large apples, but if I have any pieces of apple left over, I will cut them into small cubes to add to our cake batter. Here's what you need to get, and we'll move on to the rest of the recipe immediately. Of course, I still have some leftover pieces of apple. As I explained earlier, I will cut them into small cubes to add to the cake batter. I set aside my mold with the sliced apples, and in a bowl, I pour 100 grams of powdered sugar. Ooh, I add 3 eggs. Don't laugh, I went to circus school when I was little, but I'm a little scared of juggling eggs. And yes, I was a gymnast and my mom sent me to circus school. Anyway, who cares? Let's crack the 3 eggs. What we're interested in is the recipe, Mom. Let's not get sidetracked. I'm going to add 2 milliliters of my caramel flavoring for the cake batter. It's really going to make all the difference. The eggs and the sugar, we'll whisk them together, ladies and gentlemen, with a whisk. All right, let's go. You want to whisk your eggs until they're pale. Whisk for 3 to 4 short minutes maximum. You can, however, use an electric mixer if you feel like it. Next, we add 120 grams of melted butter. And yes, that's quite a bit, it's a lot. But that's what makes a good old-fashioned grandma's cake. If you're on a diet or have diabetes, you can skip this video or simply substitute the ingredients. You can replace the butter with avocado or zucchini or even applesauce, ladies and gentlemen, with no added sugar. And as for sugar substitutes, I'm not really sure. If you have diabetes, I don't want to give you any bad advice. We'll add 2 tablespoons of milk. It's optional, but it's better. It makes the cake moister, you see? Then 150 grams of flour with a packet of baking powder. It's a 10-gram packet for those of you who might ask me in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more air fryer recipes. You mix it well, incorporate the flour well. You don't want any lumps, as you can imagine. And once you've mixed all that, we'll cut the apples and add them to the batter using a spatula. You'll get a nice, smooth batter. You can, of course, use a smaller pan in width, in diameter. Mine is quite wide, 22 centimeters, but you can use a smaller one. But the pan fits very, very well in the air fryer. You just chop your apples roughly, Don't overthink it. I said small cubes, but hey, even if they're triangles, for the amount of apple in the batter, it's a bit of guesswork, forgive me, but I have large apples, so I had some left over here. I might not put it all in, I'll save some for a fruit salad, but the rest I'll put in 3 big handfuls, 2 or 3 big handfuls of apples in the batter. And there we go, we pour our apple pieces into the batter. Oh my, I didn't even take out the whisk. It's getting stuck in there. I told you to use a spatula. You mix your batter well with the apple pieces inside to distribute them evenly. And then we'll pour the batter directly into the cake pan with the caramel and the apple slices. Here we go, I'm pouring. You'll see, this cake is absolutely insane, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a while since I've used that catchphrase. For cooking, you can cook in the top basket or the bottom basket, it makes no difference. I'm removing the cooking rack. Why am I using the bottom basket? Simply because it's taller in height. It has more height, so I figure if my cake rises, it won't touch the heating elements. You place your pan at the bottom. For the cooking, ladies and gentlemen, you turn on your air fryer. I'm choosing drawer 2 since I put my cake pan at the bottom. For the mode, it's the cake mode, the bake mode. I'm lowering it to 160 degrees and I'm setting it for 35 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll remind you that this standard version of the COSORI Turbo Tower doesn't have 2 heating elements, you know. Look closely. You don't have the second heating element at the bottom. You only have the heating element at the top. Same for the top basket. If you have another air fryer like mine or another brand, you follow the instructions just like me, 160 degrees for 35 minutes. However, if you have an air fryer with a dual heating element, you can reduce the cooking time by 2 or 3 minutes. Here we go. We'll be back in 35 minutes, ladies and gentlemen, for the result of my incredible and magnificent upside down grandma's apple and caramel cake. After 35 minutes of cooking, the cake is supposed to be done. I didn't cheat, I didn't open it. Listen, it looks pretty good. I'm still going to insert the blade of a knife to check if it's cooked through. The blade comes out clean. Without burning yourself, you take out the cake pan. Look at that. Not bad, right? Okay, now the trick is not to mess up the unmolding. And of course, if you make this recipe at home, be sure to let it cool down completely and don't do what I do, which is don't rush it. I'm not patient. I'm always in a hurry. I always unmold my cakes while they're hot. And now I'm going to unmold it to show you the result, hoping the cake doesn't stick to the pan. And yes, because I'm a bit clumsy, and on top of that, I'm not very lucky, let's say. So, there, anything can happen on this episode of Malvi's Cooking. Drum roll, please. Moment of truth, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, magnificent! Look at my incredible upside-down grandma-style apple and caramel cake. And of course, I'm going to cut a slice to show you the inside right now. So it's still hot, you know? You should wait. Don't do what I do, okay? I'm repeating myself, I know. Look at that with the apple pieces inside. Isn't that beautiful? If you ever want to make this magnificent and incredible recipe, which is a big hit with adults and kids alike, feel free to leave your feedback in the comments, and I'll see you soon for new recipes. Bye!